Welcome, everybody. We'll get started in just a moment here. Sean, can you keep an eye on our waiting room, please, and make sure anyone who enters there gets admitted to the event? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome everyone to our Inspire and Empower webcast for women in STEM. My name is Keely Roth, and I am the co-chair of the Inspire, Develop, Empower, and Advance Committee. We're part of IEEE's Geoscience and Remote Sensing Society, and we are so pleased to have organized today's event as part of our IGARS 2020 Technology, Industry, and Education webinar series. We have an amazing set of co-organizers for the event today. YZE, Center for Sustainable Communities, Georgia Space Grant Consortium, the GLOBE program, and our high school and undergraduate GRSS group have all been part of making today possible. I'm gonna introduce our moderator, Juliet Hall. Juliet is an advisor and leadership consultant and speaker. Her background includes 20 years in corporate America, working for 2 US billion-dollar companies. She's extremely passionate about women's empowerment and helping all individuals who are at a career crossroads to own their opportunities. Juliet, please get us started.
Thank you, Keely, and welcome to everyone out there. Welcome to our kickoff of Inspire and Empower. And we want you to follow us on Instagram at Inspire and Empower _STEM. Again, follow us on Instagram at Inspire and Empower _STEM. The gender disparity in STEM fields remains an issue in the modern labor market. Technology is advancing at a rapid speed, and while women constitute almost 50% of the labor market, there are only 28% of women in STEM fields as opposed to 72% of men. So this webcast is a women's empowerment event. It's created for women, for the young dreamers out there who aspire a career in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. The content brought to you today is solely dedicated to informing, equipping, and inspiring more women, and also the men who support them, to pursue and own their opportunities in STEM-related fields. We are going to hear from 5 amazing women leaders from different countries around the world who each have their own unique stories to share about finding their courage to pursue their dreams. Not only will we learn about what they do, but we will also go behind the veil to learn what made them confident and how they forged their own path to success. So this webcast is for you. Please use the chat box to submit your questions. And when you do that, make sure you include your name as well as where you are coming from, and we will answer as many questions as we can. At this time, let's meet our first panelist, Anne-Marie Klaassen from the Netherlands. And we are going to show her video.
Hello, my name is Anne-Marie Klaassen and I work at a company called IEEE. And at IEEE we provide satellite-based data and applications to optimize crop production and water management. 25 years ago I started studying at Wageningen University in the Netherlands. I'm here at the River Rhine. And I started studying there because I wanted to see the world, but also as an 18-year-old, I wanted to make it a better place. I was particularly interested in how you can help people all over the world to get access to better food, and more income in a sustainable way. And during my studies, I took a summer job at a satellite remote sensing company, and I got intrigued with, first of all, the beauty of satellite images, but also with the technology behind it, and that it allows you to observe all over the world, any place in the world. And I joined ILIF because it was one of the first companies that provided operational services based on satellite data in agriculture and water management. What I like most about my work is to bring the technology to the user. At ILIF we process huge amounts of data, and it's very tempting to impress people or try to impress them with very complicated formulas and lots of data layers. But the challenge in my work is not to complicate, but to simplify. By sending a fruit farmer in South Africa an alert when something is wrong in his farm, so when there is an anomaly, and not to share the weekly updates in our data. Or in Tanzania, we provide water use associations with maps of water stress, so they can target their irrigation investments. So it's really about translating the data into useful information. What I have learned through the past years is that it's very important to be authentic, to be yourself, to be not afraid to ask questions, and most importantly, to do what you really enjoy.
Thank you, Anne-Marie, and you can unmute yourself. Welcome to our webcast. It's good to see you. How are you?
Thank you. Yes, sorry, I was not allowed to unmute myself. Hello, good afternoon, good morning, good evening.
Well, good. Well, it's so good to see you, and welcome to our webcast. And in your video, you talk about the importance of being authentic. Can you tell us why that is so important to you?
Yes, of course. Well, the reason is that when I was younger and early in my career, I was the only woman working at the company. And I was always looking for an example, and I didn't really find it in the men working at the company that were a bit ahead of me. And the older I get, I realize I don't need an example. And that's really that everybody has his own uniqueness, his own strength, and that's basically sufficient. It's nice to look at what other people are doing, but it's not necessary to be how other people are acting. So I think that's the reason why I stress it out, to believe in your own strength and in your own being.
That's a very good point, because I know that it's so common for a lot of women, even men too, but especially women, that we compare ourselves to other people. And so being authentic is so important, to just be who you are, because I think we all can agree that when we compare ourselves, that comparison robs us of our joy. It robs us of believing that we can be the person that we see in our dreams. So I love what you say about being authentic and being who you are and not being afraid to stand out. You know, and I want to also just ask a question too, and we're going to have more opportunities to ask questions of you, but in our time together, I know that you are a proud mother, and you told me that motherhood has actually helped you to become a better leader and has helped you to focus more on what you're doing. So I wanted you to expand on that a little bit for the women out there who feel like they have to choose between motherhood and a career. Tell me how you've made it all work for you and it's made you a better person.
Well, the moment I got a baby, a few things changed. And the major thing that changed was that I was going to work, and I enjoyed going to work, but at that time I had another priority, a baby. So I want to be at home as well. And then I realized, okay, I can complain about it, or I can better really, really do what I like and be as effective and efficient at work as I can be. Because if I have to make a choice, I'm not going to be bored at my office and just staying there. No, I want to be effective and doing things. And yeah, So I became more motivated actually, which is, yeah. And the second thing is that I found parenting, how to say it, very inspiring. And I started reading books about how to raise your kid and how to be a good parent. And then one of the philosophies I liked very much is about being a calm and confident leader. And I wasn't any of those. I was not calm, I was not confident, and I was definitely not a leader. And being with my kids gave me a lot of time to practice, of course, but also you start thinking more about how you work with other people and how you can, yeah, be part of a good team, because actually parenting is a teamwork, and it's important to do that correctly. And, yeah.
Well, thank you. Thanks so much for sharing that. And we're going to come back to you a little later in the webcast, but thanks for sharing a little bit more about who you are and your story and what's important to you. At this time, we would like to showcase a set of finalists. We actually had a photo contest that was entitled Women in Geoscience, #InspireUs. And we were flooded with so many wonderful photos. We want to show you some photos that made the cut, the final cut. This is the first set, and the photos are judged based on the following criteria: authenticity, impact, creativity, and motivation. But they're also judged not only on the quality of the photo, but their stories as well. So we are so excited to bring to you a list of those finalists. I'm actually going to turn it over to Keely so she can tell you more about it. Keely?
Thanks, Juliet. So we launched our Women in Geoscience #InspireUs photo competition earlier this summer. And we had many, many amazing entries. It made choosing the 10 finalists that you'll see here today and the winners that we'll announce later in the event very difficult. So I just wanted to share a few of those, and we'll have these interspersed throughout the event before we announce the winners. So our first finalist is from the Geo-Latinas Coding Group, which is part of the Geo-Latinas Development Committee. And this is a group that has their activities worldwide. And so they've shared a photo from one of their online sessions. And little caption here: it shows how our team connects, supports each other, and learns different open source software packages oriented towards geosciences. We are breaking physical boundaries, and we want to highlight the importance of a supportive group and teamwork during difficult moments such as this pandemic. Our second finalist is ankeshimana Rodia from the Geographic Institute of Burundi. She's shared this photo with us. It's an action shot of her out doing her job. She writes she's a surveyor and topographer. And as we see in this photo, I'm in the process of establishing contour lines. And our third photo finalist is Nitya Priya Bhupati from ITTB Monash Research Academy in India. This is another action in the field shot. She writes, apart from the technical instruments, we also carry a satellite phone for communication, water bottle, insect repellent, all weather protections, etc. in the backpack while taking measurements around the field. I love being in the field amidst the practical difficulties, as we can improve the endurance capacity and eventually learn a lot. And Juliet, I will hand it back over to you to introduce our next panelist.
All right, thank you so much. So more to come from Keely on those finalists. They were just amazing photos and just a hard contest to judge there. But we are now going to transition to our next panelist, Dr. Ana Ferreras from Washington, D.C. Let's watch her video, and after the video, we will hear directly from Ana.
My name is Dr. Ana Ferreras. I'm a senior program officer for the National Academy of Science, Engineering, and Medicine. I remember being little and going to this payphone in the street with my parents in order to be able to talk to my relatives. And I remember thinking, wow, this is amazing. How is it possible that when I grab this gadget, I'm able to listen to my grandma like she's next to me? So I remember being little and always intrigued about how phones work. It wasn't until I moved to the United States to study the last year of high school in an exchange student program that actually my math teacher talked to me and said, Anna, you're pretty good in math. Have you thought about pursuing a STEM degree? So I started out of a community college, a local community college based in Orlando, Florida, Valencia Community College. And then when I transferred to the 4 years university, that's when I realized I was more of a hardware type of engineer. And that's what I did. I did my undergrad in that field. When I finished, I was very eager to see the practicality of engineering. I was very eager to go into the private sector. I ended in a very small company. I became the first female design engineer in 30 years of history of a company. And it wasn't an easy experience. I decided to go back to school full-time in the evenings and do my master's in engineering management because I want to become a good manager, a good boss for other engineers eventually. Never realized that I was gonna love two subjects, quality engineering and strategic planning, and I decided to quit my full-time job in the private sector to just go and accept a scholarship to go full-time for my PhD. What I work on nowadays is called STEM policy, STEM diplomacy. So I work with the best and brightest engineers and scientists in the United States, forming policies that really impact the entire global STEM community. It's a lot of fun. I enjoy my role, my job, because I serve like a connector between the US federal government and many scientists and engineers in the United States and connect them with many international scientific organizations.
Wow, Anna. Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you doing today?
I am well. It's so good to see you again.
Nice seeing you as well.
Well, Anna, welcome to the webcast. And you just have such a very unique background, very decorated, achieved so much in education. You're published, so much you've done. And yet you started with humble beginnings. You started very small. And I just wanted you to take an opportunity to share with the audience about your background and how you started your education in Spain, but you finished in the United States. What do you say to young women who don't have a lot of money, but they want to get a STEM education? And I know that you emphasize community college as a start. So can you just talk about that?
Sure. So it's a very unique model what we have in the United States, and it's called the community college. The equivalent in Europe probably will be a tech school, right? Where you go to learn and become let's say, professional electrician instead going for electrical engineering. I always recommend, fellas, if you don't have money, in my case, I came from another country. I didn't have my parents here to understand the US educational system to figure out how I could afford to study in the United States. So I had to figure that on my own. And then I realized that there are local small institutions where more than 50% of minorities in the United States start their STEM higher education. So I highly recommend any of you that you might be not having the money or, you know, the wisdom of parents that are educated locally to then look for community colleges, look for resources, look for scholarships, but there is always a path to start STEM education.
Yeah, and I think that's just so important because no matter where you are in your journey, the key is just start somewhere and to not look down or despise small beginnings. And I just think you're such a wonderful example of that with all that you have accomplished in your career. And I know a part of your success, Anna, has been in the mentors that you have had. And so tell us about the mentors, you know, that you've had, and why it's important to have mentors, and specifically, what have your mentors taught you?
Yeah, I've been very blessed. I'll tell you this to everyone. I think we all need mentors. I will rank them based on quality over quantity. I got plenty of friends that are paying these career coaches to guide them. If you do your homework and you approach people you truly respect and admire, and it makes no difference if they are in the same field as you are. They might be in another STEM career, so maybe not even in STEM, but you admire them because they're strategic, because they, whatever they set out, they accomplish, because, you know, they don't give up, you know, they just go get it, right? And so when you see people like that, please approach them. Don't be shy. You might meet them in a conference. You might meet them socially in a social event. Just go and get them, because if you get that guidance, you can really accomplish anything you want. And they will groom you. They will groom you. They will take you like you are their project. And so when you experience something like that, then you truly grow exponentially. So I have different type of mentors. I think mentoring is an interesting field because everybody assumes the role is going to be different. Some of my mentors think their role is to find me a job. So every time they see me, it's like, hey, Anna, do you know that this institution is hiring a director, la, la, la. I'm like, oh, thank you very much. I'm happy with my job, but good to know, you know? So other ones might be asking you, Anna, what are your struggles nowadays? What are you dreaming about? What would you like to accomplish next? What's next in your career? And they guide you, they put you in touch with people, or they share with you resources, or hey, you know, this foundation giving you know, mid-career grants for new ideas that they might want to carry on. So I say I've been blessed because I have had amazing mentors. I continue with some of them nowadays communicating, and I highly recommend you to find mentors. Okay?
I love that. And you know what? And one of the things that you said, Anna, is that with a mentor, you really don't have to pay for the mentor, but if you get an executive coach, you'll be paying a lot of money for that. So that is just wisdom there, and just good financial common sense, I must say. So thank you for sharing that, and we look forward to hearing more from you later on in the webcast. And at this time, we're going to actually transition back to Keely so that we can hear about another, some more finalists of this photo contest. And before I hand it back over there, if you just joined us, please remember to follow us on Instagram at Inspire and Empower _STEM. Keely, I'm sending it back to you.
Thanks, Juliet. It's my pleasure to share our next set of photo finalists for our Women in Geoscience Inspires competition. This entry comes from Ruth Soto, who's with the Spanish Geological Survey in Spain. And she writes, long days of field work were hard but very comforting. Parenting has led me to work in the mountains in a different way, observe them from my computer. But do not worry, they are there waiting for me. Our next entry is from Ekaterini Tavri, who's with the University of Victoria in Canada. And she shares this action shot from some of her field work on an Arctic sea ice expedition. She writes, as one of 2 women representing the Canadian remote sensing team throughout the expedition, my role was to deploy and maintain several instruments on sea ice. Our next finalist is Mary Immaculate Nefru from the University of Buea in Cameroon. She writes, I love geology and I'm passionate about the advancement of geoscience education in Africa, most especially introducing new and advanced digital skills for geological exploration. Also, I'm advocating for gender inclusiveness in the geoscience community. And back to you to introduce our next panelist.
All right, thank you so much for that, Keely, and congrats to those finalists and those amazing photos and stories. I am so excited to bring to you our next panelist, who is coming to us from Santiago, Chile, Patricia, Dr. Patricia Oliva. Here is her video.
Hi, I'm Patricia Oliva. I'm an assistant research professor at Hémera Earth Observation Center in Santiago, Chile. Even though I work in Chile, I'm from Spain. So how did it end up in Chile? When I finished my PhD, I found a postdoc offer at the University of Maryland. So I moved there with my husband, who left his job so we could take the lead. Working at Maryland was amazing. The University of Maryland is a multicultural and highly motivating environment where I got to meet people from different countries and got to work developing operational active fire algorithms. So I wanted to stay there and develop my career, but life is not that simple. My funding ran out, my visa status changed, so it was difficult for me to get a different job. But at that time, an interesting job offer appeared. So we finally decided to move to Chile. At that time, I had a toddler and a 5-month-old baby, so moving wasn't easy. But the good news is that in Chile, I could develop my research interests because I wasn't following anybody's agenda. That made me regain my confidence as a researcher. I became a PI of 2 projects, and I have now a small team who make me grow as a research leader every day. So my message for you is always be open to possibility, because you never know where you might end up. Whenever you have the chance, you go travel the world and live in a different country and work with different research groups, because that will make you grow as a person and as a researcher.
Hi, Patricia, how are you?
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. I really enjoyed your video. I enjoyed your story. You know, one of the unique things about your story is that I know that you were the first person in your family to pursue studies at a university. I also know that you have lived in 3 countries across 3 continents. And in this last move, you moved your entire family, as you stated in your video, including your young child and a 5-month-old. I don't know how you did that. But that's incredibly brave. And I just wanted you to take a moment to talk about, where did you find the courage to take such big risks in your career, from moving from country to country, from moving your family to another continent, you know, with small children? I just think that took an amazing amount of courage, and I just thought maybe you could talk to us about where you found your courage.
Well, I think first, I think that change is good. Getting out of your comfort zone helps you widen your view of the world, and also helps you grow as a person. So, and also at certain times, it was the change was brought to me by a necessity. No, I thought that it was better to move to the US, for example, to grow my career as a researcher. So I decided to go there. And I wasn't afraid of the changes. So I don't know, it was a mix of reasons. No, I don't think it's so much about the courage, but that you focus yourself on what you're gaining from the change than more than what you are losing, right?
That's a good point. Think about what you can gain versus what you can lose. That's a really great point. And in pursuant to that, I know that we've talked and you've talked about why it's important for people to ask for help. You know, some people believe that when you ask others for help, when you show yourselves vulnerable that way, that it's a sign of weakness. But asking for help is a sign of strength, and you emphasize that as an opportunity for women to grow. So talk about why it's important for women to ask for help.
Well, I think it's important to realize, I mean, women have to realize that they don't have to do everything by themselves, or they don't have to prove that they know everything. You know, sometimes because of social pressure, women have to be more knowledgeable than men about certain things, so they are listened to. No, so we pressure ourselves that we have to know more and we need to do more. But actually, it's fine to ask for help. Actually, most of the people, they're glad to help you. They're glad to be your collaborators in many things. Also, they want you to succeed in many ways. So it's good to realize that, well, you don't have to know everything, especially, I mean, in my case, I realized that when we moved to a different country, so you don't know anything. You don't know how that country works. You don't know where to go buy groceries. You don't know how the health system works. When I moved to Chile, I didn't know how to, where I had to go to vaccinate my children. It was, everything is difficult if you don't ask for help. I mean, you cannot learn everything by yourself. It's actually proven that people learn more quickly when they ask than when they try to learn them by themselves.
That's excellent wisdom. Excellent wisdom. Such great wisdom for all of us to ask for help, because we really can't succeed by ourselves. It really does take a great team of people around you. And as you said, we don't know everything. And so we limit ourselves and our potential if we don't ask others for help. So thank you for sharing that. And we're going to hear more from you, Patricia. Remember, folks, you know, one of the things the themes that we're talking about in this, on this panel is women finding their courage and what that looks like in different parts of the world. In order for us to grow and to achieve our goals, you know, we must be willing to ask for help, along with starting somewhere and just being open to possibilities, which was things that we heard from our previous panelists. We look forward to hearing more again, but at this time, we're going to reveal another set of photo contest finalists. So I'm looking forward, Keely, to seeing what you have to show us. Keely, back to you.
Thanks, Juliet. I'm happy to present the last 4 of our top 10 photo finalists. We have this submission from Laura Dingle Robertson, who's with Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada. Using these technologies to help Canada monitor crops and support producers will also help achieve food security for my kids' future. And that's what gets me going every day. We have this entry from Rafael Aguida, who's with the Surrey Space Center, University of Surrey in the United Kingdom. I'm really passionate about research-led teaching, where every single hour of my lectures become an open window over the research projects I conduct at Surrey Space Center. Likewise, I get excited when a measurement campaign out in the fields can be transformed into a living lecture. We have this entry from Rabia Munsaf Khan with State University of New York in the United States. And she shared a photo here from the summer space school. And she says, being first of the family to go into the space sciences, I have felt it is my responsibility to spread awareness about this field and related career options. Not many women in Pakistan think about science-based careers, let alone space sciences. I'm in a privileged position to inspire young women and men of Pakistan to take up non-traditional career paths. And we have this entry from Suchit Purohit from Gujarat University in India. She writes, computer science by education, geoscience and remote sensing by heart. Though I undertook computer science as a profession, somewhere the passion for GRSS was intact. Rightly said, it is never too late to follow your dreams. And I will turn it back over to Juliet to introduce our next panelist.
Okay, well, congrats to those sets of finalists. We are really excited to see more from that. And at this time, we're going to introduce our next panelist, Gladys Mosomtai. And I also want to just remind the audience out there that if you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to use the chat box to ask your question. Make sure that you include where you are from, your name as well. And I've been looking at the chat box, and we've got people from all over the world. I see people from even down under in Australia. So very excited to have you join us, and for everyone that's around the world. So use that chat box so we know who's here. All right, now let's move on to our next panelist, again from, she is from Nairobi, Kenya. Her name is Gladys Mosomtai, and here is her video.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for having me here today. My name is Gladys Mosomtai. I'm a PhD student at International Center of Insect Physiology and Ecology, commonly known as icipe, and also a student at University of KwaZulu-Natal, pursuing a PhD in environmental science. My research work looks at the impact of landscape ecology on coffee pests and diseases. What I'm basically looking at are landscape structure and how that, combined with farming systems of smallholder farmers, influence the population dynamics of coffee. Making use of remote sensing, field data, and a lot of coding in R. My journey started when I was in high school, when I first heard about Wangari Maathai when she won the Nobel Peace Prize. And since then, my passion to pursue science, and specifically in the field of environment, because she was an environmental activist, began. When I started my undergrad program, one of the introduction courses was in Introduction to Remote Sensing Applications, and that was the beginning of my GIS and remote sensing career. I remember the time our supervisor, our lecturer at the time, only had a computer. We didn't have a lab or anything at the time. He would only use his computer with a screen, and he would do layer stacking using Elders Imagine. And I think the fascinations of using technology and computer was what drew me to GIS and remote sensing applications. What I would want to tell young girls is that there's nothing that is impossible. Every young girl has the innate ability in them to succeed in STEM field, so they should always pursue. There's nothing that really can hinder them. It's just that they have to get outside the box of what the community and the society puts them, and rise above them. One thing I would call my superpower would probably be the ability to always rise above the challenge. Nothing really gets on my way, so I have to pursue all those things that I would want to do, regardless of whether the challenges are there. It's every day just waking up with a positive mindset and knowing that if you push and focus on something, there's always be a way out in every kind of challenge. Every girl out there should just keep fighting, and pursuing the dreams that they want and rising above the challenges.
Hi, Gladys, how are you?
Hi.
It's good to see you. Good to see you.
Good to see you too, and good to see everyone.
Well, welcome to the webcast. I noticed in your video that you really talk a lot about young girls not being hindered and being willing to get out of the box and and also to keep fighting. And I just wondered, this is an international audience here, and I just wanted to ask about Kenya and the culture of Kenya, and what does courage look like for a young girl growing up in Kenya?
Thank you so much, Juliet, for having me here today, and thank you everyone for joining us. Yeah, courage. I would really describe courage as going against the grain. I mean, Kenya, and I think like most African countries, and just in the context of global perspective as well, as a young girl, I mean, you grow up to a society and a community and even a family setup that already has a defined roles for you, that you're expected to do this and this and that. And sometimes, for you to actually deviate against it has to take a lot of courage. Going to school, not so many families are very passionate about putting their children through school. I mean, even for men sometimes, but you can imagine how much for girls. So you have to really push, you have to fight even to go to school. Sometimes, like today I was just reflecting, going to school, some serious kilometers you have to walk. Sometimes, you're barefooted and, you go to school, there's no lunch. As in, there's so many factors that would, hinder you. And so growing up in that kind of context, and it's a story for many. I mean, my story is not unique. That's the storyline for many African girls out there, and even others who have more difficult kind of circumstances. I was lucky to come from a family where my grandparents were very, very passionate about education among his peers. So he took all his children, who are my parents now, and so they were, have at least have an idea about education. But for many Africans and many girls, that will not be the story. And so, even so, you finish your university and everything, and of course, there's always the expectation that at a certain age you need to start getting married. The conversations just go, oh yeah, so you're here, you want to pursue a master's. They will be excited for a while, but then for yourself, for my case, for instance, I wanted to pursue my master's, then go on to the PhD. And then it got to a place where not everybody is becoming a champion for you, because it's like, Gladys, education is not everything. You need a family, you need this and you need that. And then, at that point, it gets to a place where you have to become your own champion to be able to pursue the things that you want. And, for me, and I really concur with Anna Ferreras that you need to have role models, having people like, for me, like the late Professor Wangaramada, just having women figures. I did not need to be close to them, but just seeing them in their own element, in their own fight, in that self, like, the way you carry yourself, you are, and, a point of light to so many others that you might never know. So for them, having these women in my life around and seeing them, I think they would give me the courage to pursue what I wanted to do. So courage is really being your own champion. It's going against the grain. It's going against the odds to pursue what you really love. Yeah. So
I just love, I love what you said. You have to become your own champion. And I have to tell you, Gladys, that, just hearing you describe culture in Kenya, it's so different there than even what I grew up here in the United States. I never had to worry about going to school barefooted, for example. I always had lunch at school or food at school. I never went without a meal even. And that's remarkable. That's remarkable that you grew up in that culture. Now, you said that you had, a grandfather that really pushed you. So you really grew up privileged. But for the girls out there that may be listening who may not have a grandfather like yours, how do you encourage them, or how do you help them to believe or help them to become their own champion? How do you get them to that? How do you invest them in that way?
Well, I think for most part really is having the rest of women like myself who are already in the spaces where we are to really be stepping out there. Let's not just work in our comfort zones of labs and everything really, but really be able to reach out, because those young girls and everybody else there, they're looking for somebody whom they can identify with. So I find a lot of the time many scientists, and we are all locked out with wanting to write our papers and everything. But I think personally, I have taken the responsibility to understand that behind me is a whole lot of army of young girls looking up to me, and I cannot afford to really give up and not to be able to pursue for their sake. But then even for that young girl out there, really you have to be passionate about something. But you can never be something that you have not seen. At some point they have to have seen somewhere, they have read somebody. There could be a girl who comes to their village and they look at that and like, I want to be that. And so it is really for us who've been in a privileged position to try and reach out to them in one way or the other, engage in whatever circumstances you can to just get to those young girls. It's really, I feel like a lot, it lies on the shoulders of the women who've made it, to be able to reach out to the young ones, to those in the village, and with those with a similar circumstance, and do something about it and just get to talk to them. I am privileged to be one of a BOM member in one of the primary schools back in my village. And before the girls, everyone sits, I go speak to them, and you can see the eagerness in their eyes, and they look fascinated and everything. I mean, they might not say anything, but I know in their minds it has registered that there's a different narrative to life than what they have known, that they can give them that passion, that light in their hearts to pursue something.
Wow, that's remarkable. I love it. Thank you so much. What a powerful, powerful message for all of us. You mentioned Anna. Anna talked about, having mentors, and you're talking about being a mentor to young girls, lifting as you climb. So that's how we empower each other as women, by reaching out, by helping others. Also, not being afraid to ask for help, as Patricia told us, shared with us earlier. This is just really all good stuff. So thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you for sharing, what life is like in Kenya. It's amazing, that it's just a remarkable experience, background, and thanks for enlightening us to that. All right, well, wow. Remember, if you have some questions for any of these panelists, and we've got one more on the way, but remember to use the chat box and, leave a comment, leave a question. Be sure to tell us where you're from so that we know who you are. So we just want to hear from you, and we want you to stay engaged. Well, we have one more finalist, and she is coming to us all the way from India. And I am so excited to introduce to you Dr. Swastika Chakraborty, and we are going to show you her video now.
This is Dr. Swastika from Sikkim Manipal Institute of Ecology, Sikkim, India. I am Associate Professor in Electronics and Communication Engineering Department. My motivation to learn science is to know the unfold truth behind the happening. My unique power, according to me, to convince people to motivate the innocent mind. I can say to the coming youngsters, try to find a way to say yes to something, yes to learn new things, yes to make new friends, yes to take new challenge, yes to move from country to country to learn some unique, some innovative things. Thank you.
Thank you, Swastika, and we are so happy to have you. How are you doing?
Good, I'm fine. Happy to join this chat.
Good. Well, we are so glad to have you. You mentioned in your video that it's so important to say yes, say yes to learning, say yes to traveling, say yes to taking on new challenges. You are very clear that we have to say yes and to be open, similar to what Patricia said about being open to possibilities. But I want to ask you, when is it appropriate to say no?
Okay, this the situation where so far it doesn't cross the boundary. After exploring all the possibilities, then only it is appropriate to say no. When it crosses the boundary, means it should not sacrifice our self-dignity, our family bindings, our culture, everything. So if it crosses the boundary, then I have to tell no. Otherwise, it is yes to accept new challenges.
Yeah, and I think that's such an important point that you bring out about setting boundaries, because as women, I'm sure so many of us can relate to this as women. We don't do a good enough job of setting boundaries. We tend to put our interests on the back burner to support other people, whether, support, other leaders, support our families, and so we tend to just take that back seat. And so I think that's so important, your message about setting boundaries, even for, women. If you're not putting yourself first, then it may be that, some women are so goal oriented, so ambitious, so career driven that they may compromise, they may make choices, make decisions that against their personal dignity, as you pointed out. And I think it's just so important that we have to set boundaries for ourselves. That's a key to success, to keep us focused. So, and you talk about those boundaries with personal, family, personal dignity and family and culture. You don't want to say no to those things. And you've proven yourself to be successful with that. And I want to also ask another question around that, Swastika. I want to know, just like I asked Gladys about her experience in Kenya, I want you to tell us about your experience in India and what does the culture look like in India for young girls, and are they encouraged to pursue education and careers in STEM? Can you speak to that?
Yes, sure. In India, now the situation is that this is not so difficult for a woman to grow up in career. There are so many schemes for Government of India, starting from the schools to the PhD of their career. There are a lot of financial support is there. One has to avail the support to know different schemes. That is the major thing. I'm not telling about the very remote places. Otherwise, it is very comfortable situation to pursue career, taking the financial help from government. There are some NGOs also they are supporting. This is the thing. So if women want to start their career, pursue their career, finance will not be a major problem. And regarding the family gesture, family culture, family bindings, according to me, everyone has to set the attitude first to struggle. Every woman has their own struggle in her own way. So according to me, first to build a challenge within individuals' mind, should take the challenge, struggle against the culture if required. Then only the success can come. And India has got a comfortable situation now. Women cannot be barred in any cases. Rather, they are benefited. Different projects are there for financial support. No problem at all. No issue at all.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's encouraging. That's encouraging. What I heard you say is that for young girls in India that want to pursue their education, that the financial support is there, that there are many opportunities for young girls to advance their education in STEM them because those opportunities are there. So that's great to know. And it sounds like the barrier or the challenge perhaps for young women, you know, might be, you know, the patriarchal system of the family. I know that we had a conversation not long ago about, you know, that 24, 25-year-old woman in India. There's the cultural expectation there is that they get married, right? By the age of 25, right? Yes.
Yeah. That is a real situation.
That's a real. So how do you encourage that woman who, you know, let's say she's 24 years old and almost 25, and you know she's got to make a choice between, you know, pursuing further in her studies, her education, or you know, there's that strong family pressure of, you know, you got to give that up and, you know, come home and get married. How do you handle those, or how do you advise, how do you encourage women who may be in those situations?
Again, the situation depends on the personal attitude. She has to handle every situation. If possible, maybe marriage is not the constraint. Maybe it is helpful for enhancing the career. So it's possible. It's possible to manage everything. Only thing is that the zeal, the courage, the challenge should have in individual's mind to carry on, to pursue her career. This is required. Everything should be balanced. It's a struggle, really a struggle, but can be done. It's not that it cannot be done.
And the truth of the matter is, I think, you know, even though you are describing India, that's true really around the world, I think, where women, yeah, even in the Western world, I mean, there's still that patriarchal system, and women have to make choices, you know, of, you know, how far they want to go in their career, versus, you know, do they want to slow down and start a family? And I think what's so remarkable about this panel is that we have panelists now, such as yourself, Swastika, and Patricia, and Anne Marie, you know, who are mothers, you know, they're, you know, have families, and they are successful in their careers. And I think that's a lesson for all of the women out there who are listening, that you really can have it all. You can have it all, but you may not be able to have it all at one time, but you can have it all. That's what I believe. So, well, Swastika, we'll hear more from you later. Thank you so much for sharing that. And so at this time, I think it's time to reveal our photo contest winner. So, or winners, I should say. So I'm going to toss it back over to Keely. Keely, why don't you tell us who are the lucky winners for today?
Thanks, Juliet. Well, you didn't make it easy for us. So I will say it was incredibly difficult to select the 10 finalists from among all of the photos we received. And then, as you've all seen, all 10 of those photos are gorgeous. They have amazing stories behind them. They're from different parts of the world. They're from people who are involved in all different aspects of geoscience and remote sensing. And so it was no small task to choose our winners. And we actually ended up with a tie for third place. So tied in third place, we have the GeoLatinas coding group with their submission from their weekly meetup where they learn open source geoscience coding tools together. So congratulations, GeoLatinas coding group. Sharing third place, we have Mary Immaculate Nefru from the University of Buea in Cameroon. She is using GIS and remote sensing to do geological exploration and discovery. So congratulations, Mary Immaculate, for third place. Our second place winner is Rabia Munsaf Khan with her screenshot capture of the Summer Space Sciences program and her inspiring story of helping people in Pakistan, both young men and young women, look towards new career opportunities. Congratulations, Rabia. And finally, in first place, we have Ekaterini Tavri with her incredibly impressive and exciting Arctic sea ice expedition photo. So we congratulate her for taking first place in our Women in Geoscience Inspire Us contest. All of our winners will reach back out to you to get in contact with you about your prizes. But thanks to everyone who participated, thanks to our 10 finalists, and thanks to our winners. We look forward to sharing more of your stories over GRSS social media channels. And Juliet, I will hand it back to you.
All right. Well, congratulations to the finalists, the top 3 or 4, I should say, and to our winner. So amazing photos, amazing stories. And now we are going to take this time to bring all of our panelists back together so we can just have really a conversation among all of us women and share more stories. This is your opportunity as well for you in the audience to use the chat box to ask questions. You know, make sure you let us know where you are from. And also I want to put it in another plug to follow us on social media. We are on Instagram. The Inspire and Empower webcast is on Instagram, and that handle is at Inspire and Empower _STEM. So at this time, let's get all of our panelists back. Let's unmute them. I'm going to unmute all of our panelists. And let's see, do I see Anna here? Wait there, I just saw Anna. There we go. All right. And so I have some questions, and I want to ask this question to all of the panelists. I want each of you to take an opportunity to respond with your perspective on this question. And it's about self-confidence, because we know that self-confidence is an issue for many women. Without it, it is just hard to be courageous. So I want to ask, where does your confidence come from? And Swastika, I just want to start with you. You there, Swastika? Did I unmute her? Let's see here. Well, I tell you,
looks like she's having some audio connection troubles, but she's back on.
Okay, we'll come back to you, Swastika, if you can hear us. Patricia, where does your confidence come from?
Well, I think some of it comes from your objectives, and in life, if you're comfortable with your life as it is, and also about the feedback you get from the people around you, and because when you are like pressured to do like different things in your life, or when you're not doing what other people expect from you, I mean, you need to be like very confident that you are, what you're doing is right, because you're certain about some decisions in your life. Some people may tell you that why are you moving from your home country just to stay close to your family because you want to have children, or you have children, and how are you going to raise your children without your family around you? So people find that difficult to think about, but I think everything is possible. You just have to be sure of your own decisions, and be sure that you have all the ability to go through all these difficult times.
Okay, thank you so much. I mean, you started out by saying knowing your objectives. So, you know, when you know what it is that you want, know what you want, start there. That's a place where you can fuel confidence in yourself. Very good. Okay, Anne-Marie, what about you? Where does your confidence come from?
Yeah, well, I think my confidence comes from realizing that I have become an expert in my field, and also about realizing and accepting my limitations. So I do not need to know everything. I don't need to succeed in everything. My contribution is only part of the whole equation. And I'm happy that I'm good in that part of the equation, but I do not need to cover everything. So yeah, for me, it's experience, being an expert, comparing yourself to others as well, and seeing that compared to others, you're not the same, but everyone has his own contribution, and that's nice.
That's really good points. Becoming an expert in your field, knowing your limitations, and something else that you said that is so important. You don't have to succeed in everything, you know. So know what you're good at and know what you aren't good at, and focus on the things that you are good at and become an expert in it. Excellent, excellent. Okay, Gladys, what about you? Where does your confidence come from?
Well, I would say that my confidence is a learned process. I think it's a process. It's a learning process. I think you never wake up you're fully confident. I think I remember some time back people tend to ask me, why are you so confident in your public speaking and all that. But then I always refer them to a time I stood before people and I could not say a word. And each time I have to go back to those moments, realizing the milestones and that I have made over the years to be able to speak in front of people, to be able to put up forward an idea that I have. But also it is not just within me effort, but I also think within the group, like my supervisor being able to give me that opportunity and endorsing an idea that I come up with without shooting it down. So with that, he accept, being having good mentors around me who've been able to allow me to be courageous with my ideas, to speak my mind, and over the time trying to be as well, like somebody said, that you have to be an expert. And as you become an expert in something, people come to you asking you for questions, asking you for guidance, and slowly by slowly you start becoming an authority in your field. And once you become an authority in your field, you slowly have it grows in you. I think confidence is a growth. There's no day you will be 100%. Even as of now, I still find myself shivering before I go and speak before people. But I have to face that in every minute before I speak before people, I am done, and people don't understand that but this is a process. Every day you have to face it. And I remember asking one of mentors that I used to stay, and he is like 60, 70, 60 there. Do you get, are you afraid each time you go to speak in public, in conferences and everything? And he said, yes, I am. And he once told me, the thing that you feel is because you're passionate about something. And if you don't feel that jittery feeling before you go something, I mean, you don't care. So the jitteriness that you feel each time before you stand in front of people is because you're passionate about something that you're doing. And of course, there's always that if you present before people, they'll judge you and that. But that should never make you not to step up. So every day I have learned to just go through their hard, the every moment. But once you stand in people and you start talking, and everything just take into shape, and you love it. So confidence is a growth. It's a process. It's never a one day event that you wake up and you're it. And it's gonna be going on, I think, for as long as you.
And that's important for all of us to hear, that confidence happens over time. It's a journey. It's a process. I get some echoes there. So thanks for sharing that. I'm gonna mute some people here, so I hear echoes here. But thank you, Gladys, for sharing. Thank you for sharing that, because you also talked about not only the process, but you talked about being in the right environment of people, having other people around you to support you, to speak into your life, to give you that feedback. So being in that right environment also fuels confidence. So thank you for sharing, Gladys. Okay, Swastika, I think come back to you. If you can unmute yourself. There you go. Swastika. All right, now tell us, where does your confidence come from?
Actually, confidence comes from understanding the situation very well before reacting it. I feel the confidence comes if you know yourself, care yourself, respect yourselves, accept yourselves, and love yourself. Passionate, be passionate. Then confidence comes to your attitude automatically.
Oh, wow. You just wrapped that up really perfectly, Swastika. Thank you. So Swastika, just to repeat what you said, that it's just understanding the situation that you're in, and it's knowing who you are, respecting who you are, which also kind of goes back to setting those boundaries, Swastika, that you talked about earlier. Loving yourself and caring for yourself. I think that's another important message for women, that we have to do better at taking care of ourselves and putting ourselves first and making us a priority. So thank you, Swastika, for that. All right, last but definitely not least, I want Anna. Anna, tell me where you get this big confidence that you have. Where does it come from?
I don't know. I guess it's a combination. I think curiosity is one of very important. I think any women in STEM, at some point, they're gonna be challenged. It's gonna be someone that is gonna tell you, no, you can't, or no, you are not fit or suit for that. And that's the moment of truth in which, hold on a second, do I need to ask permission to be on this table? No, I'm on this table. I deserve to be in this table. That's it. And so I think it's important to don't internalize these microaggressions that sometimes in certain workplace environments have become the norm. And don't question yourself. If you are curious about something in STEM, you have the right to learn, and you have the right to practice the profession. You don't need to ask anybody for that permission, and look for the opportunities. And also something else that I mentioned to Juliet is learning to trust your gut feeling. We all have that gut feeling. And if something smells fishy, it's because there is fish in it, okay? That is not, no, oh, maybe I'm seeing it in my mind. No. Now, you think that person discriminates? Yes, probably discriminates. If he's giving you that sense that, oh, that was a microaggression, do I want to collaborate with that individual? Maybe not, huh? So just avoid issues, okay? Just avoid people like that. Just look for your supporters and people that believe in you. And let me tell you something, this is a never-ending thing. I mean, I remember last time I said, I'm gonna publish a book. And they're like, I got friends, oh, no, but with your schedule, all your traveling, all your, your lifestyle, how are you gonna fit a technical engineering book? Oh yes, I fit it. It took me 3 years, and I'm sure there were quite a people out there, waiting for, oh, I'm gonna quit. But you know what? I didn't. So please go for it. Let that trash talk be a push for you to make it happen. Okay? Don't be a quitter. Quitters don't win.
I love it. Trust your gut. I love it. Well, listen, while I have you unmuted, I want to transition to another question, Anna, and you can kick this off. But we have some men. I see some men on this screen, and we have men. Yeah, I see the hands going up in the air. And so we don't want to leave you out, because we are an inclusive group, even though this is a women's empowerment forum. But thank you, men, for joining us. And that was very brave of you to join. And I would like for, and I'm going to start with you, and I'm going to ask a few others. For the men out there, how can they be more courageous in narrowing this the gender gap in STEM? Like, what advice do you have for men to be more courageous in advocating women in STEM?
Anna? So think one of the things is, just be compassionate, be conscious about it. That is hard because there is that unconscious bias, and that's why it's called unconscious. But be aware. I think we all, and this is not something, this is just not a message for males. We all, men and women, we suffer from unconscious bias, and I think we need to be aware of it. And when we notice it, stop right there and be more inclusive. Always think about people that don't look like you, that don't, as I was mentioned to Juliet the other day, yes, we're all on a race, okay? But the starting point is not the same for everyone. Okay, I was very fortunate to be born in Spain, in a developed country, to have a decent, good public education. Not everybody had that luxury. And I think we need to be aware of that in our professions and feel compassion and understand others and have that empathy and be like, hey, this person is the only female in the room. Oh, hey, this person is the only person of color in this meeting. Be aware and understand where they're coming from.
That's great, Anna. Thank you so much. I love your passion. Be aware. All right. Let's hear from some other panelists on the same question. Gladys, I'm going to unmute you. I want to hear your perspective. What do you tell the men who are listening right now? What do you tell them on how they can find their courage and what they can do to help close the STEM gap, the gender gap in STEM fields?
Well, I think they have to really step up and not conform to the the status quo. They have to really be intentional, because for me to be where I am today is because of a male mentor. My supervisor who held my hand was male. Actually, when I think through, all my mentors have been male. I have not had a chance of having a female mentor. I have, from my professor who is a male, to my my previous supervisors and my PhD, they've all been male, and they have had this much impact in my life. And it's because they were very intentional, even like in recruiting, because I remember my supervisor back at the time, he used to be very, very particular in recruiting women. He made his he made it his own to be recruiting women for internship to if you look at my department right now, I think 70% are actually women than men. And sometimes when we have meetings, it feels odd because it's all the women and we have like 3 men or 4. It's a very, and you can see even for us, we feel that's very weird. That's why are women so many than men? Because we've grown up in a setup where it's always the men who are more, and then the women are few, and it almost feels like normal. Now, when we have a department meeting where we are so many women and then very few men, it is always something that in our conscience, we are so aware of how this doesn't feel right. And that uncomfortness is the thing that you all have to be able to step out and be intentional, be comfortable in staying in a meeting where if you find yourself being the only man in a meeting of all the women, So I think for men, they really have to be intentional in everything they do. If you're in a leadership position, you have to give more opportunities to women. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Be intentional, men. Be intentional. And listen, I just happened to take a glance at the chat box, and you have someone here who knows you. His name is Abdi Jamal, and from Ethiopia. Hello. And he said, today I joined this webinar to listen to Gladys. I know Gladys from old days. We met at RCMRD in Kenya. She was very friendly and loved to support everyone. As we can see, that is so obvious, Gladys. I am really glad to see her in such a big success. So congratulations. So little shout out to you, Gladys, from one of your fans.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. Well, Keely, let me just ask you, do we have any questions? Were you able to sort out any? If not, I've got plenty.
We do. We have two. I have one for Anna specifically with the question of how are students impacted by your work?
You mean me or Anne-Marie?
You.
Me. So all right. So nowadays, as I was mentioning in the video, I work on something called STEM policy, STEM diplomacy. So I have kind of like a global perspective. I focus mainly in the US, but then I cooperate with international scientists and engineers. And I do provide a lot of travel fellowships and student paper competitions and programs like that, mainly for graduate students. Some undergraduate students are eligible too. And I also work with mid-careers, early careers, so, but mainly in the US. Mainly in the US because I'm using US federal funding. I tend to put together different type of programs. Like, for example, I'm assembling now a tutorial on proposal writing that will be part of the National Radio Science meeting in January. I highly recommend you to check that conference if you are in that field. But anyway, so I'm always looking to innovate and, you know, put together different initiatives. I tend to groom them more to be expanded more to international arenas. So what I usually do, I work with US students, I mentor them, I match them with leaders in the United States, you know, scientists and engineers, and then I take them abroad. And usually I give them the opportunity to go to congresses, I cover their travel and so and so. But I have other type of activities as well. But like I said, mainly for US, not US in the sense of being American, but meaning any student that is pursuing a degree in the United States or in a US institution, okay? So I definitely work with minorities a lot in the United States. Overseas, I am aware of a lot of funding opportunities for women from, you know, grants or scholarships from international institutions and centers. So you want to know more about that, let me know, just send me an email. I'll be happy to put you in touch with some of my contacts or open your eyes about, like, for example, if you are interested in pursuing PhD in mathematics, I know the institutions that will give you you know, a scholarship. They have programs for that. So so that I don't want to take too much time to answer the question, but yes.
Thank you, Anna. And you know what? Thank you for being willing to stay to provide your email. For all of the panelists, if you could just put in the chat box how the audience can stay connected to you. And if you're not on social media, I know at least one of you may not be on social media. If you want to provide your email address or even your website, that's fine. But if you could just take that opportunity so that the audience can stay connected to you and ask questions after this webcast is over. All right, Keely, I think you said there was another question from the audience.
Yeah, we have one more from Alina Kello. It's, what about the challenges of working remotely or having to have flexible work arrangements due to kids? How can you progress with your career?
Okay, so that's a question for, you know what, I'm going to ask Anne-Marie. Would you like to take that question? And I'm looking at Patricia too, so I might have you piggyback on that. So Anne-Marie?
Well, I am in the fortunate position that I have a lot of support from my husband. So he is taking care of most of the daycare when my kid is at home. And fortunately, the school's reopened, so she goes to school. And what I'm happy about is I work in and live in the same place. The school is nearby, so I can go everywhere on a bicycle. So I can pick her up from school, bring her home, and then go back to work. I can work in the evenings. There's a lot of flexibility in my work life and my personal life. So that helps. I think that's the, yeah.
That's great. That's great. And what about you, Patricia?
Well, I can tell you it's not easy for us. Both my husband and I work, so we have to juggle, you know, our schedule. Like so today, okay, we have to synchronize our agendas like for the week. Okay, so do you have which days do you have a meeting? what time? Okay, this, and so when is the children's class, because they have to connect also on Zoom. So we have to schedule everything, and it's been difficult because, well, we're also like working at night because it's the peaceful time that we have, and we don't have any interruptions, so we can focus on advancing our work. So yeah, so this pandemic is been hard on us on that. We don't get much rest or sleep even. So, but we're hanging on there.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I do have another question. Did we lose Swastika though? I had a question for her, and I don't see her on here. We hope she may have. Okay, we may have dropped. Okay. Well, I wanted to ask a question. We have just a few minutes left, and I wanted to give you all an opportunity to provide resources. What resources do you recommend for the young women to follow up on if they want to pursue their interests in STEM? And I know I do have a list of recommendations from Swastika that I just want to share with the audience. So here's a book that Swastika recommends. It's Women in Science, 50 Fearless Pioneers Who Changed the World. And that is by Rachel Ignatowski. And then there's another book, Women Scientists in Astronomy and Space, Superwomen in STEM. That sounds like a great book. And that is by Nancy Dickman. And then she also provides a couple of other resources, some short biographies of a few women of color who have contributed to the success of STEM. And that would be Susan LaFleche was the first Native American woman to earn a medical degree. So you can look up Susan LaFleche. And also Dr. Ellen Ochoa was the first Latina astronaut to explore outer space. I will put these recommendations in the chat box for you. But while I do that, I'm going to ask the other panelists who are here, if you have any final words for the audience or resources or anything, just one thing that you would recommend, that the women in the audience or even the men who are listening recommend what they do. So Patricia, I'm going to start with you, and then we'll start with Patricia, then Gladys, then Anne Marie, and then we'll end with Anna. So you first, Patricia. Any resources or any final words?
Well, as resources more than a recommendation, I will encourage all the women to go and join any group of women in STEM or in geoscience that they know of. GeoLatinas is great. Earth Science Women's Network, it's also a great resource. It's very important to have a group of people that have the same interests as you, and that they're supportive. So that helps a lot. And also people who will listen to you, and all your struggles. So that's important. And also, I just wanted to say that always be confident in yourself and what you want in life, and don't be afraid of changes in your life. Like if you just have to go to another country, just go to another country. If you have to change your life all around, to pursue your dream, just go for it, because it might be difficult at first, but you can handle it and you can go through everything.
All right, thank you so much, Patricia, for those closing thoughts. Gladys, what are your final comments?
I would say that best resources, I think a lot is like Patricia say, have a group of people whom you share the same ideas and ideals. For myself, I have my friends, and I call them my board of management. They're my girls. Each time I have a meeting, they have to prep me. I have to double check with them if so you have those people who are your, cheerleaders. So if you can have those people who are forever on your corner, that would be something. Reach out, find them, link up. You'll always find a way of finding like-minded women like yourself. And, each time you have conversations, you spire insight with one another, with people you share the same vision. And then the other thing that for me that has been helpful a lot also was I at some point realized I am getting to a place where I needed to be, a leader. And I have been lucky because part of my program is a PhD. We've had trainings on leadership and all that kind of thing. But I also engage a personal trainer or a coach at some point, or as some outside kind of training just to help me build and be, open up. So there's not really one silver lining or one quick solution, but you can always find something that you resonate with you, something that you can identify. I can't say I'm such a a reader of books, or I'm not so much of those ones, but I find other ways of honing my skills of leadership, of being a better person. So I think at some point you have to be willing to step out of your comfort zone and reach out to this opportunity. It can only grow you.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you. All right, Anne-Marie, you're next. Any final words?
Yes, I think it's very important not to be afraid, and especially not for the new, not be afraid for change, and to look for adventure, to see the adventure of things that come up to you. For example, I was very inspired by my grandmother. She traveled between the Netherlands and Indonesia in the 1960s with 3 kids while my granddad was already there. And at that time, you had to take like 8 or 9 flights, and it took like 3 days. And she just did that, and she went everywhere. And she took cars and drove into the jungle. And I loved that. She was never scared. And when I was 20 and I went abroad for the first time, she was like, just go for it. And what can happen? And I realize now with all these communication tools, it's much easier to go for adventure. But still, it's I always think when my grandmother could do it, or all those, I really like to read about women that traveled in the 1900s, that traveled the world and went to very weird places and exotic places, and they just went there and did what they liked. That was for me very inspirational. So they can do it, why can't we do it?
That's right. Thank you so much. Okay, Anna, any closing thoughts?
Sure. So as I was listening to the rest, I want to add up, because you have already mentioned the professional societies. Please, I reiterate that connect with women, connect with any society independently that they have a women's group in your field. Look for your allies, also male allies. It's fine. Now, advice, my final advice, don't compare yourself with others, okay? You are unique. We are all unique, okay? You might have role models, you might have tons of mentors, but at the end of the day, you are who you are, okay? So make sure that whatever you pursue, it makes you happy, okay? Find that balance. And then also remember that the difference between a dream and a goal is a timeline. Develop your plan, okay?
Love it.
You know, my major professor used to say, you gotta be a chew-do. A chewer is a person that is constantly thinking and chewing new ideas. But those tend to be quite a dreamers, and then they don't execute, so be careful. And then you have the doers who do a tons of tasks in a single day that don't represent anything big. Be a to-do. Be a big thinker and execute daily. Set up your plan, make it happen. And that's it. I wish you.
Love it. And we have Swastika back. So I'm going to unmute Swastika here. Swastika, do you have any final closing thoughts? By the way, I did share the resources that you left for me, the books for people to read if they want to be inspired more by women in STEM. So I shared that, it's in the chat box. But do you have any final comments that you'd like to share with the audience?
Well, I like to share that please start following your heart, what your passion is. Persevering in the face of adversity is the next thing. Standing up for what is right, that is very important. Please stand up for what is right. Expanding your horizon, another important thing to be done. And facing suffering with the dignity or faith. That is important. That's all to my message to the audience.
Thank you, Swastika. Stand up for what is right. Thank you to all of these amazing panelists here, Anne-Marie, Swastika, Gladys, Patricia, and Anna, for being so transparent, sharing your stories with us today. And to all of the women and the men in the audience, we hope you are fueled with more courage, that you are inspired. And thank you so much for joining us on our very first webcast of Inspire and Empower. And at this time, I'm going to hand it back over to Keely so that she can close us out.
Thanks so much, Juliet. Thanks to all of our panelists. And I wanted to give a big thank you to all of the groups that came together to make today's webinar possible. Specifically, a shout out to Farzan Mohammed from University of Maryland's Hack for Impact project. And he is the person behind all of the excellent videos that you saw today. So we thank him very much for his hard work on this event. And finally, we want to ask you to follow us on social media. We have many social media accounts for IEEE GRSS, the Georgia Space Grant Consortium, and the GLOBE program. And also want to give a shout out. We've posted some information about our GRSS Idea Women Mentoring Women program in the channel. So check that out in the chat box. If you're looking for a mentor, this is a great way to get started. Thank you all so much. We really appreciate your attendance today, and we look forward to more inspiring and empowering stories in the future.